The rain didn't stop for 3 days straight. I stood on my son's porch, soaked to the bone, water dripping off my chin onto the marble tiles. My daughter-in-law opened the door halfway and looked at me like I was trash somebody dumped on her lawn. "Ew, you're filthy. Go to a shelter." Harlow said it flat, no shame in her voice at all. Then she shut the door in my face. That's the moment I understood who she really was, and who my son had let himself become. My name is Liberty Cambria. I'm 68 years old. I lived at 12 Willow Street in Savannah, Georgia, in a small house I paid off myself, one shift at a time. 3 days ago the storm hit, and by the second night, water was coming through my windows faster than I could bail it out. I grabbed my purse, one photo, a bag of clothes, and I drove 40 minutes through flooded streets to my son Mason's in Ardsley Park because I didn't know where else to go. Mason is 42. I raised him alone after his father died of a heart attack when Mason was 3 years old. I worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night, serving coffee in the morning, so he'd never feel poor. I sold my wedding ring so he could have a guitar in high school. I skipped meals so he could eat. I did it all without complaint, because that's what a mother does. He married Harlow 11 years ago. She comes from money, and from the first day she made it clear my working-class hands and my thrift store dresses didn't belong in her world. I hadn't set foot in their house in over 2 years, not since she told me straight to my face that I didn't fit their image. But I thought, a flood is different. A flood is an emergency. Surely blood still means something. I was wrong. Standing there on that porch, soaked and shaking, I watched my son walk up behind his wife. He looked at me, then he looked at her, and instead of pulling me inside, he said the words that broke something in me for good. "Mom, maybe you should try the Red Cross shelter downtown." A shelter. He was telling his own mother, the woman who raised him alone, who worked herself half to death for him, to go sleep on a cot with strangers instead of setting one foot on Harlow's white carpet. "We have the Hendersons coming for dinner tomorrow." Like that explained everything. Like a dinner party mattered more than a person standing in the rain. I stood there and thought about every double shift, every skipped meal, every sacrifice, and none of it weighed as much as her $12,000 carpet. "Reuben," I caught myself. "Mason, please, I don't have anywhere else." He didn't answer. He just looked down at his shoes. That's when Harlow said it, the line that still rings in my ears. "Or call that street kid you took in. What was his name? Doesn't he live around here?" That street kid. 20 years, and that's all he ever was to her. Not a son, not family. A charity case she liked to bring up to remind me my real place was outside the door. The door shut. I heard the lock click. I walked back to my car in the pouring rain, sat down behind the wheel, and for a minute I couldn't even breathe right. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped my phone twice before I got it to dial. One number, one person who never once in 20 years made me feel like a burden. Cameron Doyle. The boy I took in when he was 16, angry, alone, bounced through 6 foster homes, a file full of trouble nobody wanted to deal with. I gave him a bed, a curfew, and 3 helpings of meatloaf on his first night in my house. He paid me back with something Mason never gave me: loyalty. He picked up on the second ring. "Mom, what's wrong? Are you safe?" Just hearing him say "Mom" undid me. I couldn't get words out first. When I finally did, all I could say was the street address where I was parked, soaked, shivering, alone. "Don't move," he said. His voice had changed, sharp, focused, the voice of a man used to giving orders. "I'm coming for you, right now." I sat there in the dark, engine running for heat, watching my son's warm, dry house through the windshield. Neither he nor Harlow so much as looked out the window to see if I'd driven off safe. Then, through the rain, I saw headlights, not one car, several, moving together in a straight line, like they had a plan. Cameron wasn't coming alone. 3 black SUVs turned onto Mason Street, followed by a military transport truck that looked like it belonged on a base, not in a neighborhood of manicured lawns and luxury cars. They pulled up right in front of the house, engines rumbling through the rain like thunder. The passenger door of the lead SUV opened, and Cameron stepped out in full dress uniform, medals catching what little light there was. He wasn't the 16-year-old boy I used to drive to school anymore. He moved like a man used to being obeyed. He was at my window before I could even roll it down myself. "Mom, are you hurt?" His voice was calm, but underneath it I could hear something close to fury. "I'm fine," I said, though we both knew that wasn't quite true. He opened my door, held an umbrella over my head like I was something precious, and walked me toward the SUV. Behind him, 5 soldiers stepped out and lined up in the rain, standing straight, waiting. By then, the lights in Mason's house had come on in every room. I saw him open the front door, confused, staring at the convoy parked on his lawn. Harlow came up behind him, throwing a sweater over her silk robe, mouth hanging open. Cameron walked toward them, steady, unhurried. I watched through the tinted window as he stopped a few feet from my son. "Mason," he said, "we need to talk." "What is this?" Mason's voice cracked. "Why are there military trucks in my driveway?" "Because your mother needed help, and when family needs help, you show up." Harlow stepped forward, chin up, trying to grab back control of her own front yard. "Now listen here, we don't know who you think you are showing up with all these people. I'm General Cameron Doyle, United States Army, and the woman you turned away in a flood is my mother." "She's not your mother," snapped Harlow. "You're not even related to her. You're just some charity case she felt sorry for." I saw Cameron's jaw tighten. When he spoke again, his voice dropped low, and it was worse than if he'd shouted. "That woman worked 3 jobs so I could eat. She gave me a bed when the state gave up on me. She taught me what decency looks like." His eyes moved to Mason. "She's more of a mother to me than some people deserve to have, and right now, she's under my protection." Mason tried to find his footing. "You can't just come here and threaten us. I'm her real son. I have rights." "Rights?" Cameron's laugh had no humor in it. "The right to leave your mother sitting in a flooded car in a storm? The right to put your wife's carpet over her safety? Those aren't rights, Mason. Those are choices, and you made yours." It wasn't like that," Mason stammered. "We had people coming for dinner. The house was just cleaned." "Stop talking," Cameron said. "Every word makes this worse." One of the officers stepped up beside him and said, loud enough for the whole street to hear, "General, should we contact the Media Relations Office? Situations like this tend to draw local coverage." Harlow went white. "Media? No, this is private. You can't." "Nothing about this is private anymore," Cameron said. "You made it public the second you slammed a door on a woman standing in the rain." Mason's voice broke completely. "Please, Mom can stay with us. We weren't thinking straight."
"You weren't thinking at all," Cameron said. He turned back toward the SUV, toward me. "She'll be staying somewhere she's wanted." As he climbed into the driver's seat and the convoy pulled away, I looked back one last time. Mason stood frozen in his doorway watching us go. Harlow was already gone, probably inside, already working out how to spin this to her friends. "You didn't have to bring 6 soldiers and a truck. I would have been fine with just you." He looked at me in the mirror, and for a second I saw the 16-year-old boy again, underneath the general. "Mom, when someone disrespects you, they disrespect everything I believe in. This wasn't just about getting you out of the rain." I nodded, watching the lights of Mason's house fade behind us. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, Harlow showed up at the front gate of the base, and she wasn't there to apologize.
Base life moved slow and steady, and for the first time in years, I slept through the night without jumping at every sound. Cameron set me up in the guest quarters near the officers' housing. Small, clean, warm, nothing fancy, but nobody there looked at me like I didn't belong. On the 3rd morning, I was in the commissary with Elena Martinez, a colonel's wife who'd taken me under her wing the day I arrived, picking out groceries like a normal woman with a normal life when my phone rang. It was the front gate. "Mrs. Cambria, we've got a civilian here asking for you. Says her name's Harlow Reese. She's been at the gate almost 2 hours, won't leave." Elena raised an eyebrow at me. I felt my stomach drop. "Put her through," I said. Harlow's voice came on sugar-sweet with an edge underneath, the same tone she used right before she said something cruel. "Liberty, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days. We need to talk. This whole thing has gotten out of hand." "I don't think we do," I said. "We're family. We should be able to work through a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. I felt my hands go cold around the phone. "You called me filthy. You told me to go to a shelter instead of letting me sit in your living room during a flood." I was stressed. The storm, the mess. I wasn't thinking straight. Surely you understand that. Elena mouthed, "Unbelievable," and shook her head slowly. "What I understand is that stress doesn't create character, Harlow. It reveals it. That night showed me exactly who you are." Her voice sharpened. "That's not fair. Those floors cost $12,000, Liberty. 12,000. Elena's eyebrows shot up so high they nearly left her face. "Your husband's mother," I said quietly, "was standing outside in a flood, and your first thought was the floors." "We can fix this," she said, softer now, almost pleading. "Come to dinner. We'll do it right this time. Nice china, flowers, the whole thing." I almost laughed. She still thought this was about presentation, about staging the right scene to make the problem disappear. "I don't want your dinner," I said. "I want you to leave me alone." "You can't just cut us off. I'm his wife. You're Reuben's, Mason's mother." "Yes, I am. For 42 years I loved that boy and sacrificed everything I had for him, believing one day he'd do the same for me. He chose not to be that man, and you helped him make that choice." The sweetness dropped out of her voice completely. "Fine, if that's how you want it, but don't expect us to keep reaching out. Don't expect us to keep trying when you're being this stubborn." "I don't expect anything from either of you anymore. I stopped the night you shut that door." I hung up. Elena just stared at me for a second, then shook her head. 23 years married to an officer, and I've never heard anyone talk about carpet like that woman just did.
I laughed for the first time in days, a real laugh, the kind that comes up from your chest. It felt strange and good at the same time. That night, Cameron came by for dinner like he did most evenings. I told him about the call. His face didn't change much, but I could see the muscle in his jaw working. "She came to the gate," he said, not a question. "She did. Security turned her away eventually." "Good," he set his fork down. "Mom, I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to feel like I went behind your back." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" "Mason's business is struggling," he said carefully. "Word travels in military towns. A lot of the men who do contract work with this base heard what happened at that house. Nobody had to tell them to walk away from working with Mason. They just did." I sat with that for a second. Somewhere underneath the numbness, I felt something twist. Not satisfaction exactly, but not sadness either. Something closer to a door quietly closing. "I didn't ask anyone to do that," I said. "I know," he said. "Nobody had to ask. People just decide who they want to do business with, and around here, how a man treats his mother matters more than his sales numbers." I looked down at my plate, thinking about the boy who used to hide behind a closed door while his brother and I argued about whether he belonged in our house. Now that boy sat across from me in a general's uniform, quietly making sure nobody ever slammed a door on me again. "There's more," he said, and something in his tone made me set my fork down too. "Elena's husband heard something else today, about the house on Ardsley, Mason and Harlow's house. It's not good news for them." He hesitated like he wasn't sure how much to tell me yet. "What kind of news?" I asked. "The kind," he said slowly, "that means you might be getting a phone call from your son very soon, and it won't be an apology he's asking for."
Elena showed up at my door the next afternoon with a bag of warm cookies and a look on her face like she was carrying dynamite. "You're not going to believe this," she said, settling into her usual chair at my kitchen table. "The Ardsley house is up for sale, $1.2 million. Word is, Mason's business lost half its clients this month. Contracts just dried up." I sat down slowly. "Because of me?" "Because of what you showed everyone about him," Elena said. "This is a small town dressed up as a city, Liberty. People here talk, and when word got around that a man turned his own mother away in a flood so his wife's carpet wouldn't get dirty, folks decided they didn't want their name next to his on a contract. I didn't feel joy hearing it. I felt tired, the way you feel after carrying something heavy for a long time and finally setting it down. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mom, please, can we talk? Things have gotten really bad. I'm sorry. Mason." I stared at it for a long time. Cameron was sitting across from me, and he must have seen my face change because he set his coffee down. "What is it?" I turned the phone toward him. He read it, his expression unreadable, and slid it back across the table without a word, leaving the decision to me. That alone told me how much he'd grown from the boy who used to flinch at every raised voice in my kitchen. "I don't know what to say to him," I admitted. "You don't have to say anything," Cameron said. "Not until you're ready, and maybe not ever. That's allowed too." 2 days later, Elena called again, this time with the biggest piece of news yet. "Harlow filed for divorce," she said. "Papers went in Monday, And get this, she's telling people it's Mason's fault. Says if he'd stood up to his mother instead of dragging his feet, none of this would have happened to their reputation. I actually laughed out loud at that one, a short, sharp sound with no humor in it. Even now, even watching her own marriage collapse, Harlow couldn't see past her own reflection long enough to take responsibility for a single thing she'd done. She got the house, Elena added, what's left of it after the lawyers took their cut. Mason's renting a one-bedroom across town. Word is he's working as a claims adjuster now. Regular desk job, no corner office anymore. I thought I'd feel something bigger hearing that. Vindication, maybe. Instead, I just felt distance, like Elena was describing people I used to know a long time ago, in another life. "How do you feel?" she asked gently, watching my face. "Nothing," I said, and I meant it. Not happy, not sad, just nothing. They're not part of my life anymore. "That's healthy," she said. "That's what moving on actually looks like." That night, after Elena left, Cameron knocked on my door in his dress uniform, holding a thick folder I didn't recognize. "I want to show you something," he said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. He slid the folder toward me. I opened it slowly. On top was an official document, thick with legal language, stamped and sealed by the state. Petition for adoption of adult parent. I read the words twice before they fully landed. Cameron, 39 years old, a general in the United States Army, was petitioning to legally adopt me as his mother. "You don't have to do this," I whispered, my hands shaking around the paper. "I know," he said, "but I want the world to know it too, legally, permanently, so no one, not Mason, not Harlow, not anyone can ever question where you belong again." I pressed the papers to my chest, tears running before I could stop them. Then my phone buzzed on the table between us. Both of us looked down at the same time. "Mom, I heard about the adoption papers already. Please don't do this. You're still my mother. I'm begging you. One conversation. That's all I'm asking. Mason." Cameron's eyes stayed on me, waiting, saying nothing, letting the choice sit entirely in my hands.
I stared at Mason's text for a long time that night. One conversation, that's all I'm asking. Cameron didn't push me either way. He just sat there, quiet, letting me sit with it. 20 years ago, I said finally, I would have called him back in a heartbeat. I would have made excuses for him before he even finished apologizing. "And now?" Cameron asked. I set the phone face down on the table. Now I know the difference between a son who shows up in a storm and a son who only calls once the storm's already ruined his life. I didn't answer the text, not that night, not the next day. 6 months passed. I stayed on base, in the little house that had stopped feeling temporary a long time ago. Mornings meant coffee with Alina in her kitchen. Afternoons meant helping soldiers' kids with their reading at the base library. Evenings, more often than not, meant dinner with Cameron, the two of us talking about nothing important, which somehow felt like everything. The adoption hearing landed on a clear morning in October. I wore my good navy dress, the one I'd bought for Cameron's last promotion ceremony, and a small pendant he'd given me months earlier, engraved with 3 words, "My mother chosen." The courtroom wasn't crowded. Alina and her husband, the base chaplain, a couple of the officers' wives who'd become real friends. Judge Patterson read through the petition slowly, glancing up at us over her glasses now and then.
"It's rare," she said, "that I get a petition like this, an adult son petitioning to adopt the woman who raised him simply so the law will finally say what's already true." She looked at me. "Mrs. Cambria, do you consent to this adoption?" "I do," I said, and my voice didn't shake at all. She signed the papers. Just like that, 20 years of Tuesday night dinners and hospital visits and phone calls from basic training became something official, something no one could ever again call just a charity case. Outside the courthouse, Cameron squeezed my hand. "So, Mom, how's it feel being a Doyle?" "Feels like coming home, finally." That evening, at a small dinner Elena hosted to celebrate, my phone buzzed one more time. Same number. "Mom, I heard about the adoption. I'm happy for you, even though it hurts. I know I don't deserve a second chance. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry for real this time. I hope you're happy. Mason." I read it twice, sitting at a table full of people who chose me, who never once made me feel like I was in the way. I thought about the years I spent working myself into the ground for a boy who grew up and decided a clean carpet mattered more than his own mother standing in the rain. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel much of anything toward him at all, and somehow that quiet felt like the most honest peace I'd had in years. I deleted the message without replying. "Everything okay?" Cameron asked, watching me from across the table. "Everything's fine," I said, and for the first time in a long time I meant it completely. I looked around at the people who filled that room, a general who used to be a scared 16-year-old with nowhere to go, a colonel's wife who treated me like a sister, children I'd taught to read who ran up and hugged me like they were theirs. None of them owed me anything. None of them had to include me. They did it because they wanted to. That's the thing nobody tells you about family. It was never really about blood. It was never about who shares your last name or your DNA. It's about who shows up when the storm hits, who drives through flooded streets in the middle of the night because you called, who stands between you and the people who'd let you drown just to keep their floors clean. I spent 42 years believing sacrifice for a blood son would always be repaid. I was wrong. But that flood, the one that took my house and nearly broke me, ended up washing away something I needed gone a long time ago, the idea that I owed loyalty to people just because we shared blood. I'm 69 years old. I have a new name, a new home, and a son who proved over and over that love is a choice you make every single day, not a debt you're born into. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I belong.